I'm just glad he's paying me because Mike is just an...
Rolling.
What? Hey, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, kids of all ages, it's time for your weekly Fix the Funny. Can I get another one of these? I'm going to need this. I'm about to do this shit. So I'm okay, I swallowed it. So grab a cocktail, take those pants off, and treat yourself to the sexy bald man that makes you tingle in your special place. Woo! I'm wrong! Got my mind on my money, my money on my mind, bitch! I'm house announcer Chet Jackson, and it's time for the Me, Myself, and I show with Mike Buncord! Are we done? Yes.
Me, myself, and I. It's me, myself, and I.
Wah, 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 wah. Hello, 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 hello. Welcome to another exciting episode of Me, Myself, and I. Episode 150. 150 episodes. I deserve to... Oh, that's right. I don't have my whistle because my kids stole my Irish whistle prop for me because I was being too loud. Go figure. Me, myself, and I, too loud on a Thursday night to celebrate Friday Eve. Tomorrow's Friday. Thank goodness it's Friday. And now the Irish whistle is gone. Whistle. The Irish whistle is gone. It's disappeared on me, myself, and I. Here, that's what we have. Right here, right now. It's gone. But guess what? You know what? You can't silence me, though. I will be loud. Fine. I will do the fake. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go check out the previous episodes on Me, Myself, and I on youtube.com/MikeBComedy, and you will see me with the Irish whistle. Anyways, that's it. Whatever, kids. I'll pay back. I'll get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and wake you up. No, I'll get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and wake you up on a Saturday just for no reason. That's what I'm going to do. And it's not going to happen today. It's not going to happen tomorrow. It's not going to even happen next year. It might happen right before you graduate. I don't know yet. I haven't decided. That's what happens when you tick off a parent. That's what happens. That's what happens when you mess with a parent that's quarantined with you 24/7. Okay? We think of devious stuff ahead of time. I'll be like, all right, fine. I won't get you today. I won't get you tomorrow. And I wouldn't, yeah, whatever, Mike. Anyways, who cares? We're not going to be quarantined anymore. Huh? The world is opening up. Yay! I can't wait. Can't wait. Can't wait. Can't wait. June 15th, the countdown is here. What's going to happen? Anarchy, and everyone's probably going to get corona. Because everyone is going to join together, take off their masks, and go, I haven't seen you in a year. Oh, sorry. It's okay, man. We're having fun because we're vaccinated. So please take this as a safety precaution, ladies and gentlemen. Please don't go crazy right when the world opens up. I know it's been a year since you've heard a laughter. It's been a year. It's been a tough year, but I'm begging you, don't go crazy just yet. Okay. Just wait, just slow it. Just go easy. Okay. You don't want the world to open up and act like it's your first time in Vegas. Okay. There's the comparison. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Remember the first time you went to Vegas? You're like, Vegas! Oh, it's my first time in Vegas. And you drank and you drank and you drank like it was water. I can't tell. Ooh, it's hot. It's hot inside me. That's what's going to happen. The world opens up like that. You don't want to be the first time in Vegas. So, world, everybody, I'm telling you, okay? Bring it down a notch. Okay, let's move on. We have a very, very amazing guest tonight here on Me, Myself, and I. She's a radio personality from 101.5 KX. Miss Jennifer Steele is here. I can't wait. She has she rocks. You see what I'm doing like this? Because she rocks. She is the definition of rock and awesome and coolness. And she's got some pictures of her grandchildren and her car. I'm going to show you what her car looked like. It's badass. It's amazing. So, but unfortunately, before we move forward, we don't have Dustin's thoughts. I don't know where Dustin is. I miss you, Dustin. Come back. We'll see you soon. And hopefully we'll see you next week, buddy. But now let's move on with the show. Miss Jennifer Steele. Before we bring her up, I want you to listen to her voiceover reels. Just listen to how professional and amazing she sounds. And you probably go, oh, I think I've heard her on the radio. Yeah, you did. Because that's how amazing she is. Be like, what? She was in my ear and now she's not? Yeah, that's what happens. So listen to Jennifer Steele's voiceover reel, and then we're going to bring her right up. So here she is.
Jennifer Steele.
American Legend 2020 is a trailblazing and spirited tribute to the life of American icon Johnny Cash, the Carter family, and other country legends. Freed, in collaboration with community partners, is supporting 2 emergency preparedness COVID-19 personal protective equipment drive-through events, where each person receives a complimentary bag that includes a handheld radio, masks, and other items. Dove Body Wash works with your skin for lasting care and instantly softer, smoother skin. Have you checked your heart health recently? Dignity Health's heart and vascular specialists are here to help, so you never miss a beat. Dignity Health. Hello, human kindness. Avanti's would like to welcome you inside. Our dining rooms are now available for takeout customers to enjoy their meal in our new concept limited service dining. Get your Avanti's favorites inside, curbside, carryout, or delivery. Is your home ready for winter? Get the one up on the coming cold weather. Call Fletcher's Plumbing and Contracting today and let them winterize your home. This holiday weekend, head to Hopkins Acura for low 1.9% financing on any new Acura in stock. This crap.
Isn't that amazing? You've heard it. You've heard that voice. You're like, I got to buy something right now. Yes, because she is in your ear, and that's how amazing she is. Okay, are you ready? I am so glad to bring her up here. She's a great friend of mine. She's been in radio for many years, and she has all these wonderful stories to share. And you can hear her every single night, Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. on the Jennifer Steele Show on 101.5 KHits. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for the one, the only Jennifer Steele.
Hi, Mike. How are you?
Such a great name you have, by the way.
Thank you.
Jennifer Steele. That's awesome. And you're in your office.
I'm in my office here at KHits, so you get a little glimpse into where there's my little red lamp back there.
Love it.
I love rock and roll, showtime. This is just sort of the kind of stuff I like to have around me when I'm getting ready to do a show.
That's so awesome. And you're at the KHits studio working late.
Yeah.
And you stayed there to be on this show.
If we get crazy later, I'll walk you into the studio.
Walk us in. You can take us right now. We got an hour to play.
All right,
yes, take us around.
Oh no, wait, I can't because I have an Ethernet cord plugged into my laptop.
Okay.
So the second I unplug,
you can kind of see the studio behind you a little bit.
There
we go.
Production room over there.
That's it.
Yep.
That's all we get.
Yeah, that's it.
That's where the magic happens.
I could be anywhere.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. And, I got to commend you on your voiceover reel. Every single word that you say, a lot of people don't understand how hard it is to do voiceover acting and what you do, because it's everything you say is so clear and precise. There's no heavy, no breathing or anything like that.
I'll tell you how I learned not to do that is in broadcasting school. We had an exercise and it was a script and it was a commercial, but there was a bunch of ums in it. So we had to read it, Dove Body Wash, blah, 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 blah. And we were like, what are we doing? And then she made us go back and edit out all of the ums. And what it did is it taught us to be conscious of saying things like and taught us how to edit really well. But that's where I kind of first learned how to do that.
Was it what made you decide to jump into radio?
When I was a kid, this goes way back to when I was a kid. I can remember being 3 years old in my parents' living room, dancing around to like the Mickey Mouse Club or whatever was on TV, and wishing I was in the TV with them. And so I kind of expressed that to my mom, and she got me into acting. And at a very young age, I did, act tap and ballet and voice lessons and singing lessons. And we lived in Thousand Oaks, which is about 40 miles out of LA. Mm-hmm. So she would take me in for auditions and all that kind of stuff. So I kind of always held on to my love of acting. We moved to Sacramento when I was 13. And I did some high school drama and that sort of thing. And then I went down to CSUN, Cal State Northridge, for a year as a theater major. and then came home because I didn't want to learn all the technical. I just wanted to be an actress.
Right.
I didn't want to learn all
the proper
technical
training and everything.
Right, exactly. I just wanted to be famous immediately.
Right.
And that didn't happen. So I was like doing all these odd jobs and stuff. And then I saw an ad, just like the stories go, on TV for National Broadcasting School, which used to be here in Sacramento. And I was like, I could do that. And I thought I was going to go in to be a news anchor for that sort of broadcast. And it turned out to be radio, taught by Cammie Winston, who was a legend in this town also. And she was my teacher. And that's how I started in radio. And it kind of, I fell into it, but all of the acting training and everything I had done as a kid sort of helped me get to here, because there, acting and improv and all of that is so important in radio.
Right. Well, yeah, because you're making people listen from nothing, and there's so much distractions around them, and you're just grabbing their attention from I'm sure you're exhausted doing your recordings every single night.
Yeah, I put a lot of effort into it. In fact, I saved my stuff from today so I could show you what I do to prep my show. Okay. And so every night I print out the music log, which looks like this. And I have all of my breaks where I'm going to talk circled, so I know how much time I have to talk over a song. And then I go through and I sort of fill out a grid. Like, at this break, I'm going to talk about something fun. At this break, I'm going to talk about station business. At this break, I'm going to talk about whatever. And then I go through. And so what I do is I wing it when I get to where I'm actually doing the break, but I know what I'm going to talk about. And that's the key, I think, to sounding natural. And, radio's gone from the big DJ announcer voice guy to somebody you feel like you could hang out with, or
when did that evolution start?
I would have to say in the 90s, it started to shift a little.
I can see that.
We saw that at the end of the 90s, and then, into the 2000s, when some of the big names around here in town lost their jobs, because radio became, all of a sudden, they didn't want to pay anybody anything, and they wanted you to do twice the work. So that's sort of what became in the mid 2000s, up to where we are now.
Wow.
Yeah.
So let's backtrack. So you went to National Broadcasting School here in Sacramento?
Yes.
And then
it's
so
not
what was
business anymore.
What was your first radio gig?
Okay, so my very first experience at a radio station was up at KUBA in Yuba City. They have a little tiny farm radio station out there. And so one of our jobs in broadcasting school was to go visit this station because it was a heritage station. And so that was my first experience at a radio station. My first actual radio job, when I was in broadcasting school, I worked as a promo assistant for the old Cool 101.1, which was, the oldie station in town forever. Right. And I would go out to the state fair and talk to people and get them to say they loved, the oldie station and stuff like that. And then I got a job in Modesto as my first on-air gig. And I drove 90 miles each way to Modesto for $5 an hour to do the overnight show.
Wow.
That was my first gig in radio.
Wow.
Yeah. $5
that
an
is
hour.
A hustle.
Yeah. And I would work all day Friday, get off, go get changed, and then huck it down to the radio station, stay up all night. And then, like a zombie, drive home the next day.
But you love it.
I loved it.
You're willing to go through the zombie life because you love it. So what made you decide to go from acting to radio? What was the decision?
Well, I think, that when I moved back to Sacramento after college, there just wasn't a big, huge acting scene here in town. I mean, there was. I did some dinner theater. I did some murder mystery dinner theater, which was a lot of fun. I did quite a few of those and just kind of kept my toe in it. But I knew it wasn't going to happen as a career. And I needed to find something. And the broadcasting ad came on, and I was like, I can try that.
Right.
And there's actually, this is a great story from my broadcasting school. The only two people in the class who went on to do anything were myself and Dawn from Rob, Arnie, and Dawn. She was in my
nice.
Class. Yeah, we went to school together.
Wow.
Yeah.
Folks, if you don't know who Rob, Arnie, and Dawn, big, huge radio show every mornings, Monday through Friday on, was it 98.5?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe
Nice.
so. Yeah.
Wow.
So that's then her and I did the state fair together and all kinds of stuff.
Wow. Wow. So, but you know what? Let's be honest. The reason why I got about you on because you got some awesome stories that you were sharing me a while back, and
Yeah.
you got to tell me, what was it like, in the peak of radio, and what was that atmosphere like?
The peak would maybe be late 80s into the early 90s. I think
Yes.
for me
Yes.
was
And
the
you lived
best
through
time
that.
of radio. I did live through it. And I was more of a listener in the 80s because I was still in high
Mhm.
school. So before I got into radio, I would listen and pay attention to radio. But then when I did get into radio, it was still the dawn of people, we had Quad 106.5, which was huge in this town and
Mhm.
owned by Jerry Cagle. And he wrote a book about the crazy stuff that happened at Quad 106.5. And then there were other things happening around town. Around that time, I want to say maybe 1990, this will just give you an example. I was working at Fresh Country 98.5, which was the old KZAP signal.
Okay.
Okay, and we were in the old KZAP building. So there was a lot of history in that building. It's over off of Commerce Circle off of 160 in Sacramento. And it's still a radio station. In fact, K-Hits was there until we moved to the building that we're in now.
You know what you need to do, because you gave such amazing directions to that? You need to do GPS for Sacramento area.
I should. I
Jennifer
did traffic for a long time too, Mike, in part of my career. But anyway, this story goes to a New Year's Eve that nobody wanted to work New Year's Eve on the air. No way. Nobody wanted to do it. So they were trying to entice people to do it. And they basically came up to me and said, we'd love to have you. Basically, I was the last person they asked to do it. And I was the newest person there. So, of course, I was going to do it. But they were like, you can smoke, you can drink, you can whatever you want to do in the studio, man. It's New Year's Eve. You just go in there and have a good time, And then so that to me always reminded me of WKRP because
totally.
It's that kind of a building. And there was this giant party atmosphere going on. And people were still smoking cigarettes in the studio. And it was just absolutely nuts because a lot of them ended up coming in. I was trying to maintain a show and they all came in anyway.
Right.
So that was kind of some complete mass craziness back then.
Any favorite bands you worked with?
This is a great story too. One of my all-time favorite bands is Oingo Boingo.
Okay.
And I love them. I used to listen to them in high school over and over and over again. And so I was so excited when we got to have them be here with K-Hits a couple years ago for Halloween. They were in town and we had a show with them at Thunder Valley. And I got to meet all of them, minus Danny Elfman. But the kid that they have who is the new Danny Elfman when they perform is amazing. He's just as good. And I got to meet they have many of the original members in the band, got to meet them afterwards, take a picture with them and all that kind of stuff. They signed my cassette tape that I brought. And that to me, they were just cool. They were just completely cool to hang out with. And the other band that I got to work with, I got to work with Smash Mouth back in the day.
Oh, nice.
They were just cool. I mean, they were like a bunch of skater dudes and we went backstage and hung with them and they were like, you want a beer? Yeah. That was before the show, and they were
what
amazing.
A job. Get drunk right before the show.
I know, right?
I mean, you have to, you gotta mingle with the stars. You gotta get drunk with them. You gotta make them feel welcome.
Yeah. And, I've been able to work with a lot of bands, a lot of oldies bands back when I was in oldies radio. So a lot of legends there. And a lot of comedians over the years too. Howie Mandel, I got to introduce him one time.
Wow, nice.
Yeah, and he was neat. He was very germophobic, just like everybody, says. But he was very sweet. We took a picture with him and brought him out for a New Year's Eve gig.
Nice. Who are the legends that you worked with for music?
A lot of the boy bands of the 60s and 70s, I'm going to be blanking here on names, but a lot of the Motown sounding artists, and they would come through on tours and we would go out and we'd get to meet them. I'll think of some names for you. I should have been more prepared on that.
It's all good.
Yeah. One of my favorite experiences in oldies radio was working with a really good friend of mine, Ron Friel, he's passed away, but he was a huge Elvis impersonator in this town, and he was one of the best there ever was. I mean, he in the gold lame Elvis suit, the State Fair Elvis, the early
nice.
Elvis. Yeah, I judged an Elvis look-alike and sing-alike competition one time, and he was in it, and he won. But it was those sort of things that made the job really fun.
I bet
Yeah.
because it's not like any other job ever.
No, one time I was flown down to Mammoth to test drive Fords. That was the year the Expedition came out, and
That's all you did for your job? That's
yeah,
it?
they
That's
called us
awesome.
up, and I was doing a morning show at that time, and they wanted us to come down and test drive their cars and talk about it. So we did. They sent us a jet and everything. We got to go down there and drive like 8 different Ford vehicles for a day and then come home. So that was pretty cool. Yeah, that was fun.
Has there been any wild parties from radio that you've been a part of?
I
can tell right there. You can't say. You're like, I don't want to get fired, Mike.
My lips are sealed. I know plenty of people who have great crazy stories about who have been willing to talk about it, but not myself, not so much.
Gotcha.
But we did get to broadcast live from the Stratosphere in Las Vegas one time. So that was kind of like a party. We got to, they have a broadcast booth in the top of the Stratosphere, and we were up there doing our show live for 3 days from the Stratosphere. So that was fun.
Wow. It's so funny what people don't understand. A lot of people really don't. I don't know what happened, but when people think of radio, they go, radio, you listen to radio, but
I know.
everyone listens to radio.
They do.
Everyone does. So
Yeah.
where did that bad name of you listen to radio? Where do you think that came from?
When the streaming services started happening and people could realize that they could now on demand listen to whatever they wanted to in their car, if you have the right equipment. Now that's where I always say radio is always going to have a home, because not everybody wants to pay $8 a month for music or whatever. They're like, no, I'm in the car, I can just listen to whatever's on the radio. You're either a news junkie. I worked at KFBK for a very long time, and a lot of my career was in news, and we had people who followed us from way back. Tom Sullivan was there, and I used to do his news, and I did the news at noon at KFBK, and that was a good time. But we had people who would follow us. So those people still listen to the radio. But then you do have a certain percentage, and I think a lot of younger people, my daughter, for instance, doesn't ever listen to the radio, and neither does anybody that she knows. You know what I mean? And she constantly reminds me that there's a whole part of the population who has gone the way of streaming. But I think radio will always still have a home. People are desperate for some sort of local connection, and I think that's really missing in today's radio in a lot of ways. Is the local connection of being out in your community, and really, that's something I think we're going to do more of at K-Hits is getting out and meeting people and just seeing who's listening,
Yeah, because I've noticed when radio was, when DJs were acting like rock stars, there was a connection because it was awesome, it was fun, it was new, it was entertaining, and then all of a sudden something happened, and then it just became like this, just. I don't know what happened. It just became like different forms of radio. So, and then now you're up on the upswing with K-Hits, and it shows you the community that you're creating, because you go out there and you communicate and you talk to the audience, and everyone knows you and everyone loves listening to you every day, Monday through Friday. Do you think you had to battle through all that?
I did. I've been now I'm celebrating 30 years this year in radio. So I've been floating around, and I always say I've been very lucky to have been able to work in this business as long as I have, because I know plenty of good, talented people who lost their gigs and couldn't get another one. And really what happened, I think, is corporate. Corporations started to buy up radio stations, and then all of a sudden we had an iHeart, and then all of a sudden, we have whoever the next biggest owner of radio stations is. And so that all comes from one corporate office somewhere, and then it's filtered down through all of their people to the markets where we are. And I think it's very difficult to be connecting and local with somebody when you're worried about other places in your business that you have to like for instance, KFBK, a lot of those reporters are not only recording for KFBK, but they're reporting for like 6 other radio stations every 5 minutes, and it's nuts. And there's no way that you can be as local as you want to be if you're doing that sort of thing. And then you have talent who is being piped in from other places. So we know that there's a lot of morning shows that are not local. There's a lot of stations that have one person doing a show for half the country, and it's generic enough that they can plug it in and make you think they might be here.
That's such a lie, because it's different. It's different with TV, like when you were on the Today Show, like, hey, we're live from New York, everybody, back in your neighbor. But they let you know that they're live from New York, and they're not lying to you. But hey, I went to the Sacramento County Fair last week as you're living in Buffalo, New York.
Right. Doesn't work.
There's no honesty in that. That's interesting.
Yeah. And for me, one thing I've always tried to do is I'll tell stories, and I'll have interesting stories that'll come through, lifestyle stuff we'll talk about on my show. And then I always try to follow it up with something local, events that are happening in town, or saying hi to different businesses in town who listen. People really appreciate that, and there is a large section of our population, I think, who will hang on. There is a place for radio. There is. Absolutely.
How would you, how did radio help the small businesses thrive during this pandemic?
We especially at K-Hits made a very big push for small local businesses. When the pandemic hit, it was so weird because we didn't know what to do or how to react or how to be on the air. You don't want to be too chipper and, upbeat and happy when you're having rioters in Sacramento. You know what I mean? And I remember that vividly when we first started broadcasting from home, was when those riots were happening downtown. And first of all, we weren't even sure that we were going to be able to broadcast from home. But the station made sure that, like, some of us had some equipment and we just needed pieces to add to it. And so they got us all working where we could do our shows from home, but we were still live and local. And that's one thing I used to push at the beginning of the pandemic is, hey, we're still here. We're still here and we're live and we're going to tell you what's going on around town. And so we had sort of a somber tone for a little while, and then we became happy again as people sort of felt a little more comfortable with the situation.
Yeah, you definitely can't be bright and chipper and happy at the beginning of the pandemic when everyone's terrified.
People are hoarding toilet paper,
Yeah, people are hoarding the toilet paper on 101.5 Good Hits. Come on,
then you look like an idiot who doesn't care about anybody.
Right. Wow, and it's just like the very basic small decimal of the tone of your voice can change everything.
Oh, it can. They always say when you're talking, you're supposed to try to smile because you sound happier when you smile. And so a lot of the times I'll try to remind myself to do that, to bring it up a little bit, Do
you think it's like the sound changes when you open up?
Yeah, I think so. You sound happier, don't you? With the whole structure of your face just brings your voice up a notch, I think.
Hey, I can feel it. It's like, hey, big time.
In fact, they say some people have a mirror in the studio with them so that they can remember to do that kind of stuff. I don't, but some people have done that.
I wouldn't do that. I'd be like, hey, how's it going? Mike Benjord, live
Me and you.
with you here, 101.5 K-Hits. Just one.
I agree.
But it's so funny with how like a lot of people don't realize how intricate radio is, and how like it's just like this intimate broadcast in your ear 24/7. A lot of people don't realize that. I think they take it for advantage.
For granted, yeah.
For granted, excuse me, for granted.
Yeah, they do.
They take advantage of it. There we go. They take advantage of it and take it for granted. There we go.
You were asking me about small business though, and K-Hits did have a very big push during the pandemic to try to spotlight local businesses that were open, and we were able to do that because we're local. I mean, the big iHeart wasn't doing that, and other places weren't doing that, but K-Hits did.
That's awesome. That's you're fighting for the small people. It's like,
oh yeah,
everything that you've been that's been going on since the beginning of the pandemic, the destruction of small businesses, is you got this radio station that's been around 24/7 with you guys, and you guys are fighting for small businesses.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, we want to
That's-
see them be successful and stay with us, and we look at it as a partnership when people come to advertise with us.
Yeah, no, and it's not about business. I've noticed with K-Hits, it's all about relationships.
It is. Yeah, it is.
It doesn't feel like the money hungry
It's
grab
not.
and go. Yeah.
It's really truly one of the last of the great kinds of radio stations that there is. I mean, we've seen all these other corporate. I've worked for many of these other companies in town, and the feeling is so different when I walked into K-Hits for the first time. In fact, I have to thank Joey Mitchell for actually getting me the opportunity to get my job at K-Hits to begin with. Joey and I worked together way back in the day at Cool 101. I used to fill in on his show and do the news. And so I really learned how to do a lot from Joey. And we stayed friends all of these years. And I had actually been taking a little break from radio. I was off the air for about 8 months. And he called me up and he said, "What are you doing now?" And I said, "No, a whole lot of nothing." I'm kind of ready to be doing something again. And he said, "I got a line on a gig for you." He said, "We need a utility player at K-Hits." And
wow. Can you tell us what a utility player is?
I came in part-time, and I basically, because I wasn't working right then, was able to come at a moment's notice. If someone got sick, if somebody had to leave, if somebody, whatever, I could run down there and do a shift, and any shift. And that I did that for a year, and then it turned into, they created a position, which was the production director / evening host position. And I put my name in the hat for that. And that's how I got that gig.
Wow. That's amazing. Like, as much as you've been in radio, you hustled. Like, at the beginning of radio, you drove like 90 minutes both ways. And then you just did this random shifts for a year. But I don't think people realize how hard that is. Juggling a life and on top. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
It is. No, you go ahead.
No, but juggling everything on top, and you're juggling a life on top of hustling that dream that you always wanted to accomplish. What did you do? How did you manage all that?
I have to credit my family for helping me a lot. When I have a daughter who is 22 now, and when she was little, I was doing morning radio in Dixon at KUIC, and I would drive 45 miles each way to go do that. And in the early days, I would take Megan over to my grandmother's house in the middle of the night at 3:30 in the morning in her feety pajamas and drop her off to my grandmother. And then I'd get in the car and I'd drive to Dixon. I'd do my show. I'd do whatever I had to do for the station, and I would drive home and pick her up. But I couldn't have done it if it weren't for people like my grandmother, my mom, and my dad. Both have been a huge help with my daughter and allowing me to be in a position where I could go after the hustle. I worked for my dad in the very beginning too. He had a company, and I worked for him. And so he knew what I wanted to do. And so if I had a chance to go do the morning show, I could call him and say, I got a chance. I'm going to be a little late coming into work because I got a chance to do the morning show. And he'd be like, "Oh, great, go for it." And so I was kind of in a position of advantage there, as being available is what it's all about.
Right. I think that's what people are missing with live streaming is that the hustle, the radio hustle.
Oh yeah.
People that live stream are never going to experience this foot to pavement going from station to station, and you got to feel the bumps and bruises and rejection all the time and closed doors. No one feels that when you're live streaming. You just turn it on.
Yeah.
So maybe you should use live streaming. You'll probably you'll blow up.
Yeah, you never know.
Worldwide, world renowned.
I don't know. This is like just been my dream for so long. I used to say I hate that I love this business so much because it gets in your blood, and any true radio person will say the same thing. It gets in your blood. It never really goes away. And there's just something about the excitement of all of it when you put it all together and you're doing a live show and you're taking calls and playing music, and it's a fun time. But you're right, it is a hard time too, because there's so many elements that you have to think about in your subconscious say your air name. Don't say bad words. Don't.
Oh, I had the Jennifer Steele swear jar because before we were trying to get the show together, I heard Jennifer curse a few times. I was like, I've never heard her curse. As long
I
as
was
I've
so
known
mad
her-
at my laptop. It wouldn't
Oh my God, it was
cooperate.
amazing. I was like, dang it. She won't say it live. She won't be on it. She won't say it. But before the show, she was dropping
Yeah.
some bombs.
We always say
This
you
is the
can
new
do
Jennifer Steele.
you can do it one time in radio. You're allowed to cuss one time, and that's the last time you're ever going to be on the air. So you better make it a good one.
Better make it a big one. Yeah.
Better make it worth it. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what makes radio makes you want to come back and deal with the good and bad side of radio?
I love the connection with the listeners.
Oh.
And if it weren't for, we have some of the best, and I don't mean this lightly, we do have some of the best listeners in Sacramento of anywhere, some of the most loyal people. I will never forget, I worked at the Wolf for a while, 101.9 The Wolf. And prior to that, I had worked in the very beginning of my career. I worked at New Country 105 for a while. And while I was working at the Wolf, and somebody in the line, we were doing a concert, and somebody in the line said, "Are you Jennifer Steele? Didn't you used to work at New Country 105.1?" And I was like shocked and floored that they would remember that from 15 years ago. You know what I mean? And so if you can have that kind of make that kind of an impression on somebody and be their friend and connect with people that way, there's something really special about that. And we're lucky here because we're playing great music. I mean, we're all about the 80s and 90s, and it's Sacramento's greatest hits, and it's all the music we went to high school with, and it's just so fun to work here.
No, what's great about K Hits is, number one, you guys are not rubbing the 80s in our face. It's not over regurgitated. It's like, hey, by the way, we play cool music here. And there's such a great vibe. I mean, I've walked in, done the promotions team for K Hits, and there's
we love having you.
Such a cool vibe. It just feels great. Feels comfortable. Yeah. So what do you think other radio stations need to do to be more like K Hits? Or forget it. Forget what I said. K Hits is the number one station. Forget anything else.
I think it's going to be really difficult for anyone in a corporate situation to be able to really connect the way that they maybe want to.
Do you think corporate is just too concerned on the grand scale instead of more of the intimate scale?
Yeah, they're looking at numbers, and they're looking at, I mean, I was a victim of that one time myself when Cool 101 they flipped our format and fired everybody. And we were a number one morning show. And we were top 3 for like 3 years. And that was when it was a Breakfast Club with Sam, Jim, and Jen. That was way back in the day.
Right.
But I've been a victim of that, and it's a terrible feeling. But they were just, it's some guy in Dallas who said, I need to take 4 stations and flip them to this format. Here's the 4, go fire everybody.
Wow.
I mean, that's the kind of stuff. And there's been a mass firing, well, pre-pandemic, and then into the pandemic. I think a lot of people use that as an excuse to let people go.
It's brutal, because I remember watching or listening to some radio stations, and you get so used to a DJ, and all of a sudden they just axe for no reason.
They disappear.
They just disappear, and they're like, "Hey, everybody, I know." It's just like they're gone, and you're like, it's like that's part of your life.
It is, and that's the thing that makes it so special for us, is being able to really connect with people that way. If you can have somebody who's loyal to you, who truly listens to your show and is there supporting you, I mean, that is a really special connection. It is.
Yeah, I don't understand why the corporate would focus on the numbers and the money when their number one goal is to connect.
I know.
That's your number one job, is to connect with everybody. You have an antenna. You're connecting with everybody. Yeah. So you got to do it the right way. There's a lot of love in K Hits. That's for sure.
Yeah.
That's what's really wonderful about you guys.
We really do care about our listeners.
Yeah, you do. I've seen it, and that must drain you when you're at the other side of these other stations.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what kept you powering through that terrible times at other radio stations?
I've been real lucky to keep working for the most part through everything that's happened in radio. And
Mhm.
and one of the hardest hits I took, and it wasn't the money, Mike, because I'm
You're
not
talking
going
to
to
a comedian.
retire.
I don't even know what money looks like. So.
I know it's certainly not the money is not the reason I stayed in the business.
Right.
I had this morning show in Vacaville at KUIC, and we were making really good money, and we were doing really good in the ratings, and they ended up deciding to slice half our show, and they let me go. So I came back to Sacramento, and I had heard of a job opening at the Armstrong and Getty show. So I applied and got, and I had worked in that building before, KFBK.
Mhm.
I've worked at KFBK like 6 different times in my entire career. I always left on a good note, and they always
Good
put me
thing you
back.
didn't go, screw this place. And you come
Yeah,
back again.
I
I'm
know.
back.
No, they were so great to me over the years. They really were. But I
Mhm.
came back into the building and worked with Armstrong and Getty for about 6 months. And I worked for a third of what I was making in Vacaville. So, and I did it because I wanted to be on the radio,
Right.
and I mean, I lost my house. During that, when the house thing happened, and I kept doing it, because I wanted to stay in the business. And, I've been able to do some other things on the side. I do voice work and MC stuff and stuff like that to, keep it floating. And I'm not saying I'm doing that terrible now, but it certainly has been a rocky road. And I have to say that I guess it's in my blood,
But that's what makes you
what I do.
successful in radio is going through those peaks and valleys and going through the
Yeah.
turbine and not seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, and you just wanted to be a part of it.
Well, and I'm happy that I have had a chance to work at almost every radio station in this town at one point or another, because I still have friends everywhere, and that is something you can't really buy. You can't, I'm very fortunate to still have good people that will say good things about me at other radio stations. So, and it's a very small community, even smaller now.
Yeah, that's for sure. I gotta tell everybody, was like I said, you are so down to earth and so cool. I remember one time you were leaving the radio station and you drove your BMW 2002 325i. Hold on, folks. This I have
the Miami Vice car.
Yes, the Miami Vice car. As soon as I saw it, I was like, this is a cool car. Look at this, folks. Look at that. That's exactly the car she had right there, the gray one.
It was.
I'm like, does that doesn't say like I have a lot more money than you, Mike. That straight up says Miami Vice.
We always bought smart. So what I like to do is get like an early model year of the car that you want, because
Right.
you can pick it up for less money. You know what I mean? And if fortunately we know people who work on them, and and that's the key to having a BMW, is knowing somebody who's not going to rip you off.
God, I wish we did a Miami Vice commercial with that car. It was such a
I know.
And the way you pulled up, it was all white, just like, dang it.
Just
Classic.
call me Don Johnson.
Right. Donna Johnson.
Donna Johnson.
There you go.
Hi. Yeah.
So with radio, what do you think the future of radio is going to happen?
I really hope that it'll hit its peak, and maybe people will start realizing that local really does have a place, and that maybe they will start to turn the corner and try to be more local again. I don't know that it'll happen. I think people have gotten used to the way that things are now. And when they were firing big name talent in this town, and letting them go, they were not hiring people to replace them. They were just moving people around. And people got used to doing way more work for way less money. And I don't know really how you turn that around. I think it's from this town, we're a top 30 market. And so we really do matter a little bit. Sacramento does, even though this town feels kind of like a small town, especially if you're from here, which is why we're able to connect so well. But where was I going with that? We were talking about
small towns,
where radio's going.
Yes, where radio is going, the future of radio.
Right. So I think that for jocks who maybe want to see their future in radio, I think that you're going to see people go to smaller towns. where maybe there is a privately run radio station where they can do that kind of stuff again. Otherwise you just sign up or you're going to be one of the many speaking to the masses,
Well, is there a way to connect live streaming and radio together and just have that happy medium?
Yeah, I think there could be. We actually did something like that at when I was with the Armstrong and Getty show. We were simulcast on Channel 31. And that was interesting because then you have to worry about not only how you sound, but you have to worry about how you look. And I was never more happy that I had picked radio when I stopped doing that show. I was like, the pressure of having to, wear something different and look okay and not wipe your nose and, like all this stuff you have to think about and then still try to do your job, it's crazy. I'll take radio. Of pressure, I bet. So that, live streaming, yeah, I guess there could be, I don't know how you do that local, really. I guess you could locally do that.
Yeah. Well, I wish you nothing but the best because it's been a lot of hard times for everybody. And for you to stay strong, Thank
you. I wanted to show you this real quick.
To your badass meter.
This is my original radio ID from broadcasting school. And this is my original license. My FCC license to run a radio station.
That is so cool. You
Those
got a
are
license.
The original ones, yeah.
They gave you permission to run a radio station.
You had to have one, or you couldn't be on the air.
I'm sure you still need one, right?
I don't know that that's the rule anymore. I don't think it is. Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Well, Jennifer, we're almost out of time, but I want to say thank you very much for being on the show. It's learned a lot from you.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Do you have any advice for anyone that's trying to break into radio?
I would say if that's something you really think you want to do, I would go in, pester the radio station that you want to work for or at or learn from, and till somebody knows who you are, and just keep after them. Do work for free. Offer to be a promotions assistant for free. Offer to get coffee for somebody, just anything that gets you in the door, where you can observe. And, the best thing is to have somebody take you under their wing. And I've done that for a couple people in my career where I've taught them how to do radio, and it's a real fulfilling thing. But that would be my advice: is try to find the radio station you want to work at and try to somehow get your way in there, and then meet somebody who will take you under their wing.
Definitely meet them, get on your wing, and connect with the listeners. That's for sure.
Yes.
Well, that's awesome. Wow. Thank you so much, Jennifer.
This has been
a very fun, fast show. By the way, folks, if you want to follow Jennifer, you can follow her on Instagram at Jennifer Steele at KHits. Make sure you follow her. And if you just tuned in, you can check the rebroadcast on youtube.com/Mike B Comedy. Jennifer, I always like to leave on a great note. I always like to leave off on a prayer, but not a prayer by me, but it's a prayer by Sam Elliott.
Okay.
And now, a prayer from Sam Elliott.
Dear Heavenly Father, give me the strength, for I don't have any patience for stupidity anymore. Everywhere I go, I see someone doing something stupid, and I just want to smack them across the head, but I can't, dear Father, for you are the dude of this universe. Dear Lord, we're in a pandemic and I'm starting to lose my cool. All I want to do is sit in my leather chair, smoke a Marlboro Red, and drink a beer. Coors, America's beer. Lone Star Barbecue. Amen.
There you go, Jennifer. I give you peace from Sam Elliott. Wishing
that was
you
awesome.
Wishing you all the best.
I was really into that. Yeah.
Good. Sam Elliott,
I feel like a Coors Light right now.
Yeah, right? Hey, you're off the clock. You can. No one's judging you.
You never know.
No one's judging you, Jennifer.
No. No, they're not.
What's that?
No, they're not.
I don't think anyone's allowed to judge Jennifer Steele.
Oh,
folks, remember that. Don't judge her.
No judging.
Well, thank you, Jennifer, and we will see you again. Hopefully.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Me, myself, and I.
What a great show. That went by quick.
It's me, myself,
Super fast.
and I.
I want to thank also Jennifer Steele. You can follow her on Instagram at Jennifer Steele K Hits. Don't forget to check out the rebroadcast on youtube.com/Mike B Comedy. I wish each and every one of you a wonderful Thursday, happy Friday, and a wonderful weekend. Enjoy it, be safe, and yeah, it was great, huh? So respect the radio, ladies and gentlemen. I think that's what we're trying to say. Respect radio, because it will control you, and it needs to control you. We need to connect. That's what I'm trying to say. So anyways, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being a part of the show, and we will see you next week.